Hi, this is Lulu, and today I'm going to show you how I took a Christmas board that I got at Dollar General, and it was marked down to 30 cents after the holidays, and I knew I could repurpose it for something else. I really liked the beads around the frame, so I'm just taking it apart and we're going to just make it something different. So there's so many things I could have done with this, but I was laying around and I had something pop in my head, and I got up, and 2 hours later I came up with this final product. So here we go. So first I'm going to paint the board and the frame black. And the reason I am going to do this black is because I feel like it would be really a chippy, or not a chippy, but a crackle look. Oh, chippy look would look good also, but a crackle is what I want to do with this, because I'm just really going to keep it pretty basic, just black and white and brown. That's why you see the jute over on the side, actually twine, that I'm going to be using in a little bit. But anyway, so we're going to paint the board black, and I'm using a homemade chalk paint that I made using calcium carbonate and flat latex paint. And you mix 1 cup of flat latex paint with 4 tablespoons of the calcium carbonate. And if it's a little too thick, you can add a little bit of water to it. But that's how you basically make your own chalk paint. And so what I had a white, I had mixed up white, and I had extra, so then I used that and I put some black in it and made a gray, and then I just made the calcium carbonate in the black paint also. So I had 3 bottles, white, black, and gray, and that was all from 1 quart of paint. So anyway, we're just giving this a couple coats, and we're going to work on the frame while that dries. And once I'm speeding this up a little bit just so that you don't have to go through the process. But as I get this all painted, I am going to keep the beads black, and I'm going to paint the board black, but then I'm going to put a white coat around the black except for the beads, and that will be where it will be crackled. So once I get just the right amount of black that I feel it is covering the beads, because they were red, so it's going to take a couple, 2 to 3 coats on that. Once I get that done, then we'll start applying the glue to do the crackle. And what I'm going to use for the glue, so you can either use Mod Podge or you can use glue. And what I'm using down is a watered down white glue is what I'll be using to crackle it. I don't want a real heavy crackle effect. I want it really subtle. And I'll also distress the edges with some sandpaper after we're done. So that's what's going through my head as I'm doing all this. So it's really interesting how, you start out with one project and it can go into many different ways. I am going to be making a flower out of little biscuits and with the jute, and I'll show you that in a minute. But I also could have decoupaged the board. I could have put that where I'm doing the black background. I could have put a piece of like wrapping paper or a decorative paper on the back of it. I could have put some rice paper with a scene that I would have downloaded on it. There's just a lot of things that we could have done with this. So now that once I put the glue down on there, now I'm going to put the white paint and just give it a little dry. It'll crackle a little more while it's drying, but I'm going to give it a little quick dry just to make sure I'm getting the right amount of crackle that I want. And again, I wanted a very subtle crackle. I just wanted a little bit of the black coming through. And once I do that, I'll be able to now apply the glue to the outside of each side of the beads, the inside of the frame and the outside of the frame. And then once I get the glue down, I will put the white on top of that. And again, you just dry it very lightly. You do not need to dry the board all the way before you put the white on it. So you just need to get the glue lightly dried so that you're not rubbing it off when you're applying the white paint. So once I get the outside done, I'll put some glue on the inside. I'll touch up the beads because I'm getting a little bit of white on them while I'm painting. And once I get those done, then we'll be ready to start working on the flower. All right, I got that done. It's time to clean up. So I got this glass mat on Amazon, and it is the best thing I could have bought. I can put paint right on it and then just use a little bit of water and clean it up. So now I've got my biscuits that I am going to wrap in twine. And so I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue, and once you get it started at the top, you just add a little bit of hot glue down the one side and just start wrapping it around the biscuit until you get to the end. And then once you get to the end, you're done. So I just need to do that around all 6 biscuits, and we will be ready to put a stem on it. All right, I'm wrapping up the last biscuit with the twine, and then once I get that done, I'm going to look for some placement to see where the best place to put the flower petals on the board. And then I also want to see what I'm going to use for the center of the petal. I thought I would use a button, so I'm going through some of my cases to see what kind of buttons that I have, and I can't really find what I want, but I do have a black and white buffalo check button that I thought would look really good because it goes with the the black and white frame. Or I have wooden buttons that I thought would look good because it would go with the brown jute petals. So I'm just trying to figure out what is going to be best, and then also what can I use for the stem. Now I'm telling you, this project was just really on the fly. I woke up and I got out of bed, I was watching TV, it's late at night, and I just had this idea in my head, so I had to go in the craft room. So I thought, hey, let's record it so I can share with everybody the process. So when we're crafting, not all things are thought out. So I'm just kind of showing with you how I'm looking in my craft room for different things that I have that might work. Again, this wasn't planned well. So let me show you, here's a really good trick. When you have jute or twine, it has all the little hairs on it, and you got to be careful. Kids, don't try this at home. Be really careful where the little flames are going. You don't want to catch anything on fire if you have any napkins laying around. But all it usually does is it just burns the little fine hairs that are on the project that you're working on. So in this case, on the biscuits. So I'm just getting all those little extra hairs, and it's just a cleaner look. It's really nice. So you just, it's nice to have just a little lighter, on hand. And so when you're working with jute or twine, you can have your project look really clean. Now, it looks a little like some of the pieces are burned, but they're really not. It rubs right off like ash. So nothing really gets on your project. It could if you held it on there too long, but you'll get the hang of it. It's just slightly, torching only the little hairs, and those are really what catch on fire because they're loose, and then they just burn right off. So like I said, it's just a really nice, clean way to clean up your project. So I decided I had a thicker jute. So I used twine for the biscuit petals, and this is a thicker piece of jute. And I thought, just to keep it all on the same color scale, just keep it very natural, let's just use a piece of twine for the stem and to make some leaves for the flower. So I'm just seeing where they need to line up and how I want the flower. I don't want it quite center. I want it a little off center. So I'm just situating them where I want, and then I'll just hot glue them down. Hot glue is okay to use for this. I use Gorilla hot glue. You could use a heavier glue, a wood glue, a quick, thick and quick glue, something, to hold it down. But because this isn't going to be exposed to any elements, and it's going to be fine to just use the hot glue. And Gorilla glue is a really good glue, so I'm happy with that. So I have my flower situated, and I've got it glued in, and I'm just getting it pushed over so the button will fit nicely. And then I will put the button in the middle, and I think that black and white button looks really nice. You'll see a better picture of it, but I think the black and white buffalo check looks really good, especially because of the black and white on the frame and then the background. So I think that's just one way to give it a little something. I could have given it a button with a color that gave it a little pop, but I think just keeping it at the black and white is fine. So once I pick up some of the glue strings, now we're just gonna make a little quick stem, and I'm just trying to see how I want it to come out of here. And so I just want it to just curl over. I don't want it going straight, and I just want it to wrap down towards the bottom. So I cut a piece that looks good, and then I'm just going to do a strip of glue on the board, and then I'll put that on there. So I saw how I wanted it, and I just wanted it curved, and there we go. It's very simple project. So we're getting that glued down, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make some leaves. And I'm going to just do 2 leaves, one on each side, one a little higher, one a little lower. And I'm going to use the jute to just form a leaf. And it's going to be hollow. So once I get the leaf down there, and I have a little residual glue that I'm not happy with once I get the leaf glued down. So you'll see what I'm going to be doing. I just need to get that cut into shape, and then what I will do is I will be filling the leaf with the little bit of the twine just to fill it in. All right, we're on the homeward stretch now. So I have the flower the way I want it, and it's all glued down. We have the stem and the leaves, and now I just need to do a little distressing on the frame. So once I get it distressed the way that I want it, unfortunately, while I'm using the sandpaper to get that look I want on the white, I'm getting some of the black is being rubbed off, and some of the red is showing through. Now, some people might like that, but I really didn't want to go for that kind of effect. I didn't want any color on it. So I'm just sanding it down, and then I'll be doing a little bit more patchwork on the frame. And then once we do that, we'll assemble it. So let's get to it. So now that we've gotten that taken care of, we're just going to clean up that wonderful glass mat again. Look how easy it is. You just use a little bit of water, spray it on, wipe it off, and voila, it is ready to go. So we always want, especially when you're using dark colors like that, you want to make sure you get everything clean because you don't want to end up getting some paint all over your work. So once I get that cleaned up, I'm just going to make sure everything's dry. Then we're going to do a little sanding on it, and once it's sanded, we'll be ready to touch it up wherever it needs to be touched up, and then we'll assemble it. So it was a little tight squeeze getting the picture back into the frame because it had some paint on it. So it was a little tighter than I had anticipated. But once I got it pushed in and around, everything looks good. I did scuff up the frame a little bit, so I am going to need to touch that up. And I also do want to do a little more distressing. Now that I see everything in here, I think a distressed look is what we're needing. So I am using the heat tool on the residual glue. What it does is it takes those little stringy glues and it melts them, and they'll go into the jute or whatever, but basically they disappear. It's a miracle they disappeared. So I'm just touching up some more of the areas that I had tried distressing before, just to give it a little more distressing. The crackle didn't work as well on the outside of the frame as I had liked, so doing this distressing with the sandpaper really works. So I'm just touching up a few little areas, and we're almost done. Once I get this finished, I'll give you a peek at what it looks like. And again, this is what it's like. I didn't have any plans to do this tonight, and then all of a sudden I get this great idea of making these flowers with the jute and the biscuits. So this is what happens. Now, if I had planned this out well, I would have had everything ready, and it would have probably taken half the time. Now, I did speed this up. It was about an hour and 50 minutes, so I sped this up to 23 minutes, just so that you wouldn't have to watch paint dry. But again, this was a fun project. I hope it's something that you might want to try. If you could give me a like and a follow or subscribe, depending on where you're watching this. If it's YouTube, it's subscribe. If it's Facebook, it's follow. So if you could give me a like and leave any comments if you have any suggestions, or if this is something you'd like to try or learn something new, give me some comments. I'd love that. So this is what it looks like. Beautiful, isn't it? I hope you like it. Have a good day.